Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Township Board of Trustees business meeting. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Spring-like weather out there, almost no cold weather. It's nice after the snow we had. So, all right. Additions, deletions?
Mr. Supervisor?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I think we need to discuss the request for the closed session on Wednesday. We don't necessarily have to discuss the content, but I think we should discuss whether to go into closed session and then vote on it now, because should we choose not to go into closed session on Wednesday, we would be inside the 18-hour notice window for Open Meetings Act for it to be an open session.
We've noticed the meeting.
As a closed session.
The Open Meetings Act only requires that you notice the meeting, which we have done. When that notice came out, the only issue was that session. Subsequent, as we'll talk about, we're adding an open, at Friday I sent that out to you guys, adding an issue in an open session. So we're all set.
So
if we don't do the closed session, or we don't do the open session, that'd be okay if we get to the meeting and for whatever reason don't do it.
So at the meeting on Wednesday, if we vote to remain in open session instead of closed session, that won't violate the 18-hour notice?
No, okay. It won't be in violation of anything.
Okay. Then I have nothing to add.
Okay, well, I have a deletion. Action item number 3, which was to appoint police chief, is being deleted.
Second.
Thank you. Little history behind that. I had, the day after our last board meeting, I had asked the chair of the commission to hold a meeting and bring us a candidate by last Friday. Needless to say, I didn't get a candidate. I didn't get any communication from the commission on that, from the chair. So we're taking it off because we don't have a recommendation. However, it is being added to our special meeting on Wednesday, and we will take care of that issue Wednesday. I also believe I just saw the police commission agenda for tomorrow, and I believe they have it on there. So I'm assuming we're going to get a recommendation. But we'll see. But we'll handle that issue on Wednesday. That's the background. That's why we're deleting it now. We don't have a recommendation. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote on this. Mike?
Yay.
Carl?
Aye.
Uda?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Jameson?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
And I vote aye. So action item number 3, appoint police chief, will be deleted.
Jim, I have an add-on whenever.
Go ahead, Joe.
All right, Mr. Supervisor,
Yes.
for the topic would be to hire an independent counsel / investigator. I feel that due to,
Second.
Whoa.
oh, I'm sorry.
Yep.
I thought
Okay.
I heard one. I apologize.
We got the second.
I got you.
Go ahead.
I just feel that it's in the best interest of the township, the people, the complainants, the witnesses, and even the individual, that we have someone represent us. There's numerous reasons. One of the
What is this for, Joe, if I may ask
Oh, I'm
you?
sorry, for Wednesday night to hear the complaint on the, we'll call it a township official, township agent, whatever you'd like to call the individual. I'm not quite sure of the employee status.
It's not an employee.
Right, he's not an employee, so anyway, I just think it's in the best interest of everyone involved that it comes from an independent individual. And I just want to make it clear, I know we talked to the gentleman last week that does this, but this is not fair to even ask him. That's not where I'm going with this, Jim, just so you know. Because we're voting on that to bring somebody in to hire a labor attorney for our negotiations. I get that, and this is not, I'm not going in that direction, just so you know. I don't believe it would be fair to even ask him to do something like this. So that's where I'm going. I just think it's in the best interest of all that we have an independent party look at this, because there were some issues, and I feel there's some serious issues that came up in this. And I was just kind of concerned that when you have an individual in that field and we have no representation on our side, if you will. When I say our side, it's still representing, someone needs to represent the township in all issues, especially if there's possible discipline. So that's where I'm coming from with that one.
Joe, if we were to do that would then negate our meeting on Wednesday?
Well, obviously this would take some time, but I'm not sure. I mean, we haven't really, have you appointed anyone to do any interviews? Have you appointed anyone to do anything yet? I don't.
No, we're gonna listen on, I mean, the idea was for the board to listen on Wednesday.
I just don't know if that's the best
Well,
interest of
and
the
that you
township.
could, you know, actually, I mean, you could, you know, during the discussion there, bring that up.
Well, I think
Go down that road.
I certainly would rather have an even playing field. I mean, I'm not saying that the individual,
Has somebody else hired an investigator? I mean, when you say even playing field,
oh no, it's saying that the township has no one to represent him when this individual is in that field itself, bringing and looking at, say, complaints or whatever, or witnesses, or I just feel that it would be very important to have counsel. How about that? Would have counsel on our side, because we have no counsel on our side.
I think given we have no township attorney to represent us during Wednesday's proceedings is concerning.
yes.
And I brought this up in, basically in the spirit of knowledge, asking Derek, asking Brian. I know that our attorney is out of town on a planned vacation. It's my understanding when you have a complaint and you go into closed session, that the only the only one who can call that closed session is the individual being complained against, right?
Correct.
The employee.
Correct.
Request
So
it, right?
has this individual requested
Yes.
the closed
Yes.
session? Okay, because I was not clear on that.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
But
I
it's
wasn't
a-
sure
We
who
don't
asked
vote
for
on
it.
that. If that individual wants a closed session to
Says
get.
It's
may
not automatic,
request.
Jim.
It
It's not-
doesn't say must be granted.
Well, it may request, because he doesn't have to request it.
We
But-
can grant it, I think is what it says.
We have to
may
vote if
grant
we're
it.
going into closed session or not.
We have to
Jeff.
vote,
Open
but
Meetings
we
Act.
don't,
Vote no.
We
Even if
can't-
he requests it, we can still vote no.
Language I've read
Oh,
says
I'm sorry.
we can
That's-
request
that's
it.
what I
You
was
can
saying.
vote no to not go into closed
That's
session.
and
what I
we
thought you were
can't,
going
we
another way.
can't make a decision during that closed session. We'd have to come back out into open session.
If
to-
a decision is
if a
made, it has
decision
to-
is made.
It has to be voted on.
So I would think the first step is to hear what has to be said, and then after that, consider whether or not we need to hire somebody.
Where we're at, because I don't know that, well.
Then we become the
two-
investigators.
Two people here, you know, made complaints on the board. The rest of us, I'm not sure, know, other than those written complaints, know anything about the whole incident, and that's what we'll hear on Wednesday.
Hold it.
Several of us were present.
Well, you have numerous,
I-
Some of us
we
were
were
not.
we were all present, but we didn't all see or hear it.
Let me ask a question, Jim.
Yes. Mike?
How many complaints do we have? I mean, do you know off the top of your head?
Four separate complaints,
So
all about the same
of
thing.
all the people complaining, are they gonna be part of this meeting?
No.
So they-
No. We have their complaint that will be shared with the individual, so he knows what they're complaining about. Everybody here
That
will
person's
have
gonna
that.
be able to defend himself, but the people that complaint aren't gonna be able to defend their complaint?
Mike, the purpose of this session would be for
It's-
the board
it's-
to understand what is
It's going
being,
on.
going on, because not all of us were there to see or hear or understand. So anything that comes out of that, no one's gonna be defending themselves or accusing. It's just gonna be knowledge finding, and I would hope that that's
So
where
the
it
recipient
ends.
of the complaint's gonna be there or not be there?
And if we don't want him there at certain times, is he going to leave? If you request it?
There's a reason for him to, if you want him, you know,
don't think-
something to discuss.
He doesn't have the ultimate right to be in there the entire time.
I-
If we don't,
No, he doesn't.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I'm positive,
Yeah.
yes, I'm
Yeah.
100% sure that.
Yeah. What?
My,
Oh, I thought
my,
you were asking me.
No, yeah, because if it's an employee situation,
Well, and it's
then
not an employee,
it's
so
not an
let's not
employee,
talk
so-
employee, but it's akin with a consultant.
so the,
So it's a fact finding on Wednesday.
that's the right word.
my understanding of the request for closed session was that the individual requests a closed session, but the board isn't obligated to grant it. We could do this in open session before the public.
I'll defer to Brian.
The statute is clear, and I also,
I'll just
I'm,
say-
I'm just
I'm
telling
sure
you, I
it's-
got an opinion from, again,
Oh,
where I go.
Joe, that doesn't make it clear.
Yeah, well, I'm just letting you know that that's not gonna matter, because he's coming in, you're gonna vote for it to go in, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But my point is, let's not get off of what I'm talking about.
No,
So,
and,
my question
I think
is
it's a little.
that you need people interviewed, you need to get everybody that had, you need to seek out witnesses, you need to do it for him too. Everything has to be on an even playing field, and we have no one assigned to even, no one even interviewed, no one called me, no one called Mike, no one called the witnesses yet, so we're gonna go into a closed session, do a fact finding, and you're going to come out and say what then?
Well, we don't know, because I haven't heard anything yet.
But Jim, is there gonna be a full investigation? I mean, there's 4 people, I think, that filed complaints. Is someone gonna question those people? I mean, Tom will be there or whoever to defend himself,
And you'll be there.
but I was only I was only a party to my complaint. It was all over the building.
We all have complaints.
I mean, there was
There were
5
things
different
going on.
or 4 different things going on at least.
That, and it's
Just doesn't-
only germane to the people that
Yeah.
wrote something.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying, and if someone has a question regarding that complaint, they should be able to answer it. I can't answer it for them. I didn't write it.
But right now, we're strictly at the point where one person has
If-
asked to
if-
present, to hear and do a fact finding with the board.
That's why you have people.
Mike,
not
if
about
we, if in Wednesday's session, we determine there should be more, the board determines there should be more, then we can do all these things. We can hire an investigator, or we can say we should be talking to these people.
Well,
We can do that. We can do that.
So I think.
But
that-
we all need, the first thing is the board needs to all be on the same playing field as to what
Then
happened.
Don't you think it
We're
would
not
be
just gonna go
only
right in.
fair, and maybe it works differently, because, you know, I'm certainly not a lawyer, right? But usually if there's someone complaining about someone else in a lawsuit, they both sides get to talk, right? Or
Right.
something.
But it's not
And,
a lawsuit.
well, it's a complaint. It's the same thing. I mean, it's not an official lawsuit, but how would you ever know what the hell went on if the person can't say this is what happened, and if you and the guy that is the defendant says no, that didn't happen, and nobody else was there but the person complaining, because none of us were there, because none of us were at all 4 or 5 of the incidents.
Yeah, they were.
I wasn't.
Well, I know, no, what I'm saying is, what was written,
But
you
there may be a
or
question.
Joe were present at. Oh, okay, all right, well, anyway.
I don't know.
On Joe's motion, which, again, I believe it was to hire an investigator,
previous to our meeting.
previous
Yeah,
to,
however you wanna say it.
regarding the complaint.
An investigator or a legal
No,
representative?
well, they're slash, they're legal representatives that are investigators, they're one and the same. So, it's independent counsel slash investigator is what their job is. They investigate
All right.
townships and
So-
cities.
Independent
Yeah,
counsel?
so we had a motion to hire, and I'm gonna say investigator.
That's fine, Jim.
Slash counsel.
That's fine.
And we had a second by Mr. Yeager. So, yes, he did.
Yeah, Jameson did.
So, let's vote whether we want to hire an investigator.
Want to add it to the
Add it to
agenda.
the agenda.
To add it.
Let's vote to whether we want to add it to the agenda. Okay, now start with Joe.
Aye.
Jameson.
Aye.
David.
Aye.
Uda.
I think it's premature, nay.
Okay, Carl.
Premature, but aye.
What was your, I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Aye.
Aye. And Mike?
Aye.
And I vote, I tend to agree with Uda that it's premature. I will vote nay, but it does pass. We'll put it on, it will be action item number 5. All right. All right, other additions, deletions. Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Second.
Okay, approved and seconded for the amended agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The amended agenda passes. Okay. All right. With that, we have no presentations. We have public comment on agenda items. 3 minutes. Name and where you live, please. And do I have anybody that wants to come forward? Seeing none, we will move on to the consent agenda. Mr. Nadu.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Excuse me, at this time, I'd like to make a motion to approve consent agenda 21-083, which includes minutes of the February 28th, 2022 regular meeting, check registers dated through March 4th, Hylant Group Settlement and Release Agreement, and the fiscal year 2022 to 23 Township staff holidays.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on the consent agenda?
I just wanted can I get a quick synopsis of the Hylant Group settlement, brief summary, or just so I can understand?
Did you read the?
I
How
did.
much do you know?
It just looks like we're receiving a payment. I wanted to confirm that.
What there was with our insurance broker, there was a mistake made, and they're reimbursing us.
Okay. All right. Yep.
They're correcting the mistake. Any other questions? Seeing none, we have a motion to approve consent agenda 21-083, which consists of the following items: minutes of the February 28th, 2022 regular meeting, the check register dated through March 4th, 2022, the Hylant Group Settlement and Release Agreement, and the fiscal year 2022-2023 Township staff holidays. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the consent agenda passes. Thank you. With that, we'll move into our action items. David, you have the first one.
Thank you. Based upon the recommendation of the Community Recreation Commission, the Groseal Township Board hereby approves the hire of Mr. Brian Payette to the position of Facility and Grounds Specialist 2.
Second.
You. Little background on that, David?
Yeah, this is the item that was excuse me, tabled at the last board meeting and at our recent Recreation Department Commission meeting. They approved the hire of Brian Payette. This was a position that became vacant when Gene Kowalski took an internally posted position with the airport, and Mr. Payette, and we had two applicants, and Mr. Payette was selected by the interview committee, and Mr. Payette has worked part-time for the Recreation Department for about the last 15 to 18 years. And it was determined that he'd be a good fit to take this full-time position. And it was budgeted for in the next fiscal year.
All right. Questions?
Comment? I've known Brian for over 40 years, and I think he's a great hire. He's got a great work ethic, always has had, great attitude, and lots of integrity, and I think he would be a great hire.
Thank you, Mike. Other comments or questions? Seeing none, we have a motion based upon the recommendation of the Community Recreation Commission that the Groseal Township Board hereby approves the hire of Mr. Brian Payette to the position of Facility and Grounds Specialist. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Welcome aboard as a full-time employee, Mr. Payette. All right. David, you want to take number 2?
Let me find it here. Okay. At this time, I'd like to make a motion that the Groseal Township Board approves the usage of firm Schiffman Fournier for the purposes of representing the Township of Groseal in negotiations associated with the upcoming collective bargaining agreement between the Township and the POAM.
Thank you. As been going through, we're getting close to negotiations on a new POAM, which is the police officer's contract. The board discussed and decided that it would be a good idea to hire someone that's familiar with negotiations of this type of contract, and I'm going to ask Derek to fill us in a little bit on Mr. Fournier.
Mr. Fournier was reviewed by council at a study session last week, I believe. At that study session, he introduced himself and has provided his background, and I think also provided the opportunity for the township board members to ask various questions about his qualifications. And speaking of those qualifications, Brandon has a lot of them. He served as the city manager or city administrator in Southgate for a number of years, I believe a total of 6, before he continued on to focus solely on law. He represents numerous downriver communities as far as their labor law attorney, as well as in various negotiations with various collective bargaining units. In particular, he's very familiar with the POAM, has negotiated a number of contracts between various municipalities and the POAM, and those have all occurred recently. So he's very up to speed with comparables for neighboring communities and also negotiating strategies, especially relative to the POAM. So he came as a unanimous recommendation from, I believe, 4 or 5 of the local downriver communities, and with high regards from pretty much all of the downriver managers. I know Trustee Porcerelli had mentioned he had spoken also with a number of chiefs in the area, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but my understanding is that he's very well respected on both sides, from a municipal management, but also from a police union and police management side. He will be involved in negotiations along with me, and the first round of negotiations are set to start, I believe, on March 25th. We'll have future meetings with the board to discuss strategy and also terms and conditions, and we'll schedule those hopefully here in the near future. That's all I have.
One of the big reasons that we did this was in the past we've kind of gone into these negotiations blind, with not really a list of what we wanted and not really an update to the board until it was time to vote on the contract. And I didn't think, I certainly didn't think, and the rest of the board agrees, that that's not a good, solid strategy to negotiate a contract. So we think Mr. Fournier will be a big help to us. His knowledge of not only the contract, the union, he deals a lot, he's dealt a lot with the union, and is knowledgeable of the people on the union side. So we're getting somebody who knows what he's doing, I think. Any other questions or comments?
I would add to the fact, in his background, he was also administrative with one of the municipalities down here. So not only does he have an appreciation of the contract, negotiating a contract and what the terms and provisions mean, but he also has the practical experience of having to implement one. So he will understand not only from the point of negotiating a contract, but also how it is administered during the course of the term. And I thought that set him apart from just about anybody else I've ever had the pleasure of working with or knowing. I think it's a great tool that he brings, an asset that we haven't used before, haven't seen before. And I commend our township manager for finding someone of that caliber. Done a good job. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, we have a motion that the Groseal Township Board hereby approve the usage of the firm Schiffman and Fournier, or Schiffman Fournier, I'm sorry, for the purpose of representing the Township of Groseal in negotiations associated with the upcoming collective bargaining agreement between the Township and the POAM. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, this passes. Thank you very much. Okay, we deleted action item number 3. That leaves us, moves us to action item number 4. Mike?
I want to recommend the Township Board approve the interview process to replace the retired clerk dispatcher Michelle Rollring, who retired on September 28th, and that's the motion.
Okay.
Begin the hiring or
Okay.
begin the interview process.
I'll support that. I think it's, yeah, Mike, if you want to give any more history, I think it's
I don't
pretty.
think we need a lot.
I don't think does anybody need anything else on that? We know what we're doing there. We're going to start the hiring process.
I list of good candidates.
We had previously approved them going out and making a list, and they have that, so they're ready to go. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none.
We're approving the hire of a dispatcher, but not a specific
No,
dispatcher.
we're approving the process of going into hiring a dispatcher.
Okay.
That
There was a
will-
little confusion,
Yeah,
James.
that will be
There was
brought,
confusion.
when they.
Normally
when they-
come one time to begin the interview and get the list, and then finally, the second time we come back for the hire, and there's just,
Which would be, they'll bring the name to us of the person they want to hire.
Okay.
Okay? Other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None, that goes. Go police department. Go hire a dispatcher.
Recommended dispatcher.
And so that brings us to action item number 5, which was an ad. And Joe,
Yep.
if you would, please.
Yeah, the motion would be a motion to hire an independent counsel / investigator to investigate the complaints against an agent of the township.
Support.
Okay. Does anybody?
May I just add one thing,
Yeah,
Jim?
absolutely,
Oh,
Joe.
let somebody else go first. If
Well, I was just going to say. I mean, I think we can vote on this here, yay or nay. But let's assume yay, and it doesn't mean we rush out tomorrow and hire them. We can wait until our meeting. We could wait until our meeting Wednesday and see if we should proceed with this. But they'd already have approval, so I myself don't oppose it on that basis.
So I understand this correctly, though, on this motion, I guess I would motion to, how do I put this in there, previous to the meeting? To add investigator previous to the township board meeting.
Oh, well then,
Can I?
you can make such motion.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that's what I thought we were talking about, and I guess I need to
So
say
your
that.
motion is to hire an investigator / counsel prior to,
Prior to the board meeting on this issue. That would be tomorrow. No. Oh, I don't mean in one day, I mean you cancel Wednesday and you do the investigation.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
all right. And do you want to support that? He's amending his,
Yeah, I'll still support it.
okay, all right. Comments or discussion on it?
Well, I don't know that we need to. I don't know that we need to investigate prior to our board meeting on the topic in question. I do think at our board meeting on the topic in question, we need to have legal representation, because I mean we're going to ask questions, we're going to make comments. The individual in question is going to ask questions and make comments. And the last thing one of us wants to do is put the township in a legal or financial position to suffer difficulty or loss during a conversation because we're not experts on the law, with the exception of those of you that are Juris Doctorates. So at least I'm not an expert on the law, right? So if I'm asking a question or making a statement that's going to expose the township to liability, I would like there to be someone who's independent and independent of the complaints and representing the township to tell me if I'm saying something of that nature.
Okay.
And if I may add
Yes.
to Jameson, and not to go, against what you're saying at all, Jameson, but 2 reasons. A fact-finding mission, let me back up. In my experience, I had to try and count how many internal investigations I did on complaints, and I came up with about 35, believe it or not. And I'll be happy to, not on camera, to tell you how this worked in my 20-year management in police work. The fact-finding mission is, before you go to the board, these questions have to be asked to the people because you have to understand what they believed occurred through the perception of their eyes. And the second thing is that if that's not done, you also have the individual that you invite into the closed session and listens to our complaints or the complaints of witnesses can come up with a defense to everything prior to the investigation. There's reasons why you do the investigation. It's to play an even field here, and it's not to give the individual an out and a way to hear everything that you have prior to basically the investigation. The fact-finding issue is the fact-finding issue, and it should be done separately. And then the results of that then should be turned over to the township board for their vote on the recommendation. And you vote the way you want to vote, and you can go with the recommendation of this investigator or not. But those are really 2 big reasons. You do not give an individual that has the complaints, everything you have previous to investigating them is my point. And then the second reason, Jameson brought up a very good point. I don't want to go into a situation where I don't have, if Jameson is my labor attorney, let's say he's with us and we speak and we might say something we shouldn't say. I don't know. We may come up with something or a question that can't be a question, or there's something wrong with it. I need to have somebody on the township side. It's only good and best practice to do that. I'm not trying to make it an non-level playing field. I'm trying to make it a level playing field. And that was the reason for this.
So, well, just,
Or, I'm
mean-
sorry, Jameson, did you have something?
Yeah, I hadn't previously considered what Joe said about not presenting all of the information to the individual in question in order to enable them to create or better defend themselves, right? I think for it to be fair, they have all the information from their perspective. We don't have all the information from everyone else's perspective. So in that regard, I would actually support the investigation, because I think in order to make good decisions, we have to have all the information. So I would support an investigation, independent counsel on our behalf.
I'd just like to restate Joe's motion and
Sure.
what I think you said.
Sure.
Your motion is to retain some kind of independent counsel, legal, whatever, independent counsel to conduct an investigation prior to the board having a meeting to review the findings, so that we'll cancel Wednesday's meeting.
Correct.
No, we
Well,
will
I- no,
cancel, we won't
cancel-
cancel Wednesday's meeting, we'll cancel that issue.
That issue, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
at
that's
the meeting.
right,
Okay.
at the meeting.
All right.
Correct, David.
All right, all right,
Are you set?
I'm set.
Yes, Uda.
So who would have thought it? I thought this was premature, but in listening to Joe refine his discussion, his argument, I thought having a closed session on a subject that hadn't been witnessed by everybody on the board was premature. And I was hoping that the parties involved would work together to come to some sort of peaceful resolution. But I have to agree with Joe at this point, because I think it makes sense to bring in an outside independent investigator to do the fact finding, to talk to the 4 people who filed a complaint, to talk to any witnesses that were present, because I was involved in being yelled at on my way out. I heard nothing of what was going on inside this room. To me, it would just be a he said, she said, he said, it would just be a back and forth. So if you can bring on somebody who can do the fact finding before.
We will.
Well, the board will bring on an investigator to do the research. Even, we don't want to put this on our manager, but in the past, we've done that. We've had somebody from the
Right.
police department investigate. That's not possible in this scenario because it's involved. So, but before it comes to the board as a complaint per se, it would be good to have that fact finding take place first. So on that level, Joe, I see where you're coming from. I think I see where you're coming from.
Right.
And I agree with that.
What, do you?
Oh, yeah.
Did you want to say something?
Yeah,
Mike?
I agree with everything Joe and Uta have stated. I think we have to take special care to make sure this is an unbiased person that has no connection to us, quite frankly, the board or anybody that, who's complained or is the recipient of those complaints, so.
I absolutely agree with
To
that.
speed up the process, I think, Joe, you had mentioned that this gentleman that we hired for this, that he wouldn't work though. He said it would be a
maybe he
conflict for
could
him.
recommend
But he may
somebody,
know somebody
Yeah.
that,
It wouldn't be fair to even
That's all.
ask
Yeah.
somebody that we just brought in. That's not even fair. That's not
Yeah, and
fair.
I would think, you know,
conflict.
he would
It's a
know.
conflict.
Maybe.
We can
Yeah.
reach out if in fact we pass this, so we don't wanna get ahead of ourselves here. Yes, Carl?
I think everybody is saying the same thing when it comes to we want to have a fair process. I don't think that the process is necessarily even been outlined tonight. I would expect whoever he or she is should be able to take a look at the complaints that have been made and tell us, again, he or she should be able to tell us how best to proceed on this matter. I don't know that having any kind of an exchange of information, I mean, that's, in a criminal setting, that's the purpose of an arraignment. And Joe, you've been to a lot of those. But the arraignment provides the defendant with the knowledge and the charges that are against him or her. And then they go out and do their discovery, their due diligence, and then you have a pretrial. And the pretrial then decides, are we going to go forward? Is there an ability to reach some kind of an agreement, a plea agreement? Or do we go to a trial? I don't think that the board should tonight say we're going to have a meeting on X date, or we should proceed to withhold or to give all information to both sides. These complaints are personal in nature, and I think the complainants are entitled to their due process, if you will, their time in court, as is the defendant. And I think the best person to decide the procedure for doing that is not anybody on this board, but it would be whoever we are asking to come in and do the investigation. We look at Ms. Smith, we look at Mr. Smith and say, what do you recommend in terms of proceeding? Because I don't think that there should even be the hint of bias, and I don't want it to be bias in favor of the, in this place, I'll call him a defendant, or in favor of the plaintiff. I think we should have the third party come in and tell us what they recommend in their experience is the best way of proceeding. That's how I would hope we would proceed.
Other comments? I think we'll.
I would support that, by the way.
We'll answer
letting that
your
person set up the
question,
process.
Carl, your statements will be answered with the vote. So, we have, and Joe, correct me if I get this motion wrong, we have a motion to hire an investigator / counsel to look into the complaint prior to the board having a meeting on it. Does that sound
That's
good?
good. Yeah, that's got to be it.
All right.
Yeah, that's great.
With that, I'm going to do a roll call on this, and I'll start with Mike.
Aye.
Carl?
Aye.
Uda?
Aye.
I vote aye. David?
Aye.
Jameson?
Aye.
And Joe?
Aye.
Okay, we will proceed along that basis. Thank you. And that brings us to the end of our action items. So now we have our reports. Madam Clerk, if you would, please.
Supervisor, first of all, I am your liaison to the Planning Commission, and we met in this room last week and had a public hearing and heard from our planning professional and had a discussion on basically updating and cleaning up several ordinances. And as that language gets cleaned up, you will be getting that. It'll be coming to the board. And I just wanted to let you know that that was coming our way. One had to do with sidewalks at the Commerce Park over here. And so I think you'll find that those are very, very helpful changes. The next Fire Commission meeting is going to be on April 14 at 6 p.m. in this room. And according to Chief Beaudry, year to date, we've had 121 rescues and we've had 10 fire calls. And we're hoping that today and the rest of the week stays peaceful so that our fire team can get a little break. Finally, we're heading into an election season, And Brian and Elena are working on putting together an election team. And we are looking for our usual volunteers who work for pizza, coffee, and a small amount of cash on election day. But we are also looking for an infusion of new talent, and especially students. If you're 16 and older, you can participate in the polling process. So please contact Brian Friel or Elena Farmer in the Clerk's Department if you're willing and interested. We'll do all the training. And Brian, do you have anything you would like to add to that? All right, and that's the Clerk's report for today. Thank you.
Thank you to David, Treasurer's Report.
Thank you. For the month of February, Groseal Township had a total of 16 million, excuse me, a total of $16,600,000 invested. And these accounts generated a total of $724 with an average interest rate of 0.0524%. The February investment report can be viewed on the Treasurer's section at groseal.com. With regard to property taxes, all 2021 unpaid real property taxes are now considered delinquent and must be paid directly to Wayne County with penalty fees. The Wayne County online payment link, which is waynecounty.com/PTA, can be found on the Treasurer's section of the Groseal.com website. Has a current, and that website has current 2021 delinquent tax information and the various payment options that are available, which include mail, by phone, in person, or at the Wayne County kiosk located in the Brownstown, Sunoco, 21980 Sibley Road. Delinquent taxes cannot be paid via the township offices. With regard to all delinquent personal property taxes for local businesses are to be paid to Groseal Township. Statements will be sent out in early April to those businesses with delinquent personal property. And to date, we have collected 97% of the total 2021 tax roll, and all distributions to the county and the schools have been timely made. And as always, 2022 pet licenses are available at the cashier's office, and the pet tag license fee is $12. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Trustees' reports. Jameson.
Thanks. I was just going to ask the treasurer, the pet tags also give them access to the dog park, right?
You can purchase access. It's an additional. The pet tags are $12. There's an additional $10 charge.
Okay. So it's like an incentive.
For the dog park. Mm-hmm. But those can also be purchased at the cashier's window.
Okay. All right. I sit on the Zoning Board of Appeals. There has not been a meeting scheduled this month as it requires an individual who wants to vary from an ordinance. I am also working on reviewing a couple ordinances. In particular, I'd like to hear from residents about boats and fences. So if there's anybody that has an opinion on whether fences should be 4 feet, 6 feet, exist, not exist, 12 feet from the property line, on the property line, that would be outstanding. And anybody that would like to talk to me about whether they like or dislike boats in driveways, I would appreciate that as well.
As opposed to boats in the water.
As opposed to boats in the water. Yeah, they're great in the water. That's perfectly legal. So, and that concludes my report.
Thanks, Jameson. Carl?
I have the pleasure of sitting on two commissions. The first, Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Commission. We were scheduled to have a presentation on February 17th by Mary Bowling, but we had so much snow and ice that has been canceled and is going to be rescheduled when Mr. Pollack returns from the Washington, D.C. class trip this week. The second commission I sit on is the Greenways Open Space. and I am very sorry to report that Chairman Cliff St. Pierre has determined that he wishes to retire as chair, but will continue as a commissioner. Cliff has been the chair of Greenways Open Space for 20 years, has done a wonderful job, has provided a lot of insight into the purchase and maintenance process, purchase of land and maintenance of the trails. Cliff has done many countless hours as chair, puts together the budget, all of the minutes for the meetings, as well as the agenda. And Cliff, again, with 20-plus years of experience, has decided to step back. The commission has unanimously recommended the appointment of Bill Stevenson, a teacher, former teacher with the school district, I'm sure many of you are familiar with, to be the next chair. And I would also note that our last meeting was the first time that Pam Frusci has been able to attend. You may recall she had suffered an injury, has recovered, came to the meeting, and Pam has probably, as I recall, about 60 years of beautification on that. So it was good to see Pam back at the meeting again, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Carl. Mike?
Yes, I'm the liaison for the police department. I'd just like to say that I've been fortunate enough to attend quite a few meetings recently with the management team that really isn't technically a management team, and with the police chief job being vacant and the deputy chief's job being vacant. And it's been quite a pleasure. First one was the board, or the budget meeting, and it was well attended. Doug and Ken led that meeting. Mr. Anderson was there, I was there, and a few other folks from the police department. And you could tell that they got a good working relationship. It kind of reminded me of the days when, quite frankly, when Mr. Porcherelli was the chief of police. We had a good exchange of ideas, some disagreement, but you talked through them. There was no pride in authorship, and it was just really good to see. In addition, there's a lot of work going on there. Okay, they've had 723 calls in February. That compares to 747 last year, so they're down a little bit. They've issued 162 verbal warnings, 36 traffic citations. Their mileage was 10,129 miles. That was down 17% year over year for January. And the Detective Bureau cleared 5 of 6 cases, and the police reserves logged 51.5 hours of volunteer service, basically at no cost to the township. And I'd like to say these guys are doing a great job. We need more of them. So if you know of anybody that's interested in wearing a badge and, you know, taking on the duties of a police officer, we'd love to have you interview. The deer call continues to make progress. It'll be finished at the end of this month. So far, for the winter call, they've called 128 deer. And of course, that's on top of the 75 that were called in the fall deer call. So probably a record for any year so far, and we still have quite a few days, half a month to go, basically. I believe that is it for me.
Thank you, Mike. Joe?
I sit on the Airport Commerce Park Commission, and they meet in this room on the third Monday of each month it's at 6 p.m. And everything is running smooth with the new airport manager, Janelle. Everything is going as planned. And, you know, I got a couple questions. I'm repeating myself on this, but I've been asked the large construction project right across the street, I guess it would be to the northwest from this building, is the Pirates Cove addition. When you go by it, it's a lot larger than I anticipated and expected, but I've been asked by people what is going on there, and that is the expansion of Pirates Cove. and it's a large storage unit, I guess you could, or storage business there. So it will take a while for that to develop, but it's moving on as scheduled, and I don't think that it was stopped for a little bit, but everything's okay, Derek. So everything is still on the move there, and that'll be it, sir.
Thank you. Township Manager's Report.
Just a couple items for this evening, just to let the residents know, as you're traversing the bike paths on the island, the pedestrian bridge on Grow Road is getting a new deck put on it, and they actually started that work today. It should only take about a week and a half to complete that job, but you're going to have to find an alternative route around that bridge while that construction's taking place, and that is actually a grant-funded project. And they're replacing the wood with composite, so hopefully that gives us a very long life to that bridge deck. For the residents, a little piece of information with regards to yard waste. Pickup starts April 4th, which is the first full week in the month of April, so that Monday is the 4th, and those on a Tuesday pickup, their first day will be the 5th. We did conduct interviews for the vacant DDA Community Development Director position last Thursday. We hope to have a candidate for approval during our first full meeting in the new fiscal year for the board's consideration. The bridge engineering study session we had a couple of weeks ago. I have had conversations with Chris, the engineer that we spoke with. He will be putting together a proposal for us that will include the scope of services that we had discussed during that study session. He is actually on vacation, I believe, this week and next. He'll be back shortly thereafterwards and expects to give us a proposal by the 28th of this month. So just to give you a heads up where we're at with that. Our contractor for the cleaning and televising of the sewer systems, sanitary sewer systems on the island. They are back to work this week after a break during the wintertime. For those residents that are going to be having their sewers cleaned, you will get notice at your door before they start that work, and that notice will provide you with information about what they're doing and precautions to take as a resident to make sure that there aren't any issues when they're doing the cleaning at your home or the line in front of your home. Two more items, hazardous materials vouchers. If you do have hazardous materials at your home, the DPS department does have vouchers you can pick up that are from the county that allow you to drop that material off in Livonia. Ever since COVID, they discontinued the hazardous waste drop-off days, and they're going and doing a voucher system. So they're free of charge. Just come to Township Hall, you pick them up, you can take your material there. The county is looking at restarting those hazardous drop-off days, but this is what they're doing in lieu of that for right now. And then last but not
Clerk,
least...
I'm sorry, I apologize, can I just ask you on that last? How do we get what is the definition of the hazardous materials now? Has it changed, or is it?
It should, I believe it's on our website, but you can come to Township Hall. We actually have a flyer that's got all that information on it.
Okay.
And if it's not on our website, we'll get it on there tomorrow.
Okay,
So-
because I heard that it did change the definition of what they were taking.
Yeah, and we have the most recent flyer from the county that's
All
got
right.
all the up-to-date information on it that we can get to the residents.
Thank you.
And then last but not least, Al's, who is a contractor for the county, supposed to be back on the island tomorrow to start doing more cold patch. They're going to be focusing on West River Road. So that's all that I have.
Eric, I know you sent me a note on this, and I was just wondering if you could give us any insight on the bridge engineer. I mean, I'm getting a lot of questions from residents. I know we approved something, and there's something in the budget, and, well, at least the proposed budget, so that's all great. But they're gonna give us a proposal we think by the end of this
By the
month?
28th, yes, by the 28th.
So if we could put a action item together sometime in April.
Jim, I'm pushing, okay, but I always do, so. Any word from the county on a plan for the 5 remaining piers at all? I know there was a lot of talk when we were doing our monthly meetings. They were gonna give us a plan. I thought I heard the month of March. Is there, for the 5 remaining piers?
Jim, you want to take that one, or you want me to take it?
Go ahead, Derek.
My understanding is a plan is forthcoming. I think the last that I had heard was they're looking at starting work on in 2023. Okay, but
That'd be the design.
right, the design. So, and they haven't told us how many at a given time, whether it's going to be one in 2023 or whether it's going to be 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. But yeah, I have not seen a plan.
And they
yet.
won't know that really until their budget is set for any year, how that'll work in, and the work that has to be done. But we haven't received anything yet.
You guys still having those meetings, monthly meetings, or is
No.
that just?
No, we have, periodically, we still touch base with them periodically. I mean, and it's not meetings, it might just be me, it might be myself and Derek, but we don't, the meeting that we had, that you were in on, those meetings we don't have anymore.
One final question. I know the weight restrictions hadn't been lifted. There was some talk of maybe lifting it to make it a little bit easier for people building homes and needing is anything been done there? I mean,
So about 2 weeks ago, the county had contacted the township asking for information about the different businesses that were using the bridge and the capacities that they require for the type of work that they're doing. So they asked the township to provide that information to them for consideration of adjusting the load limits. We provided that information to them very promptly. We had made contact with probably no less than 15 or 20 vendors that are using that bridge that we're aware of, whether that's concrete haulers or that's the hardware or Kroger or the gas stations, and provided them what we felt was the load limit that majority of the contractors and users of that bridge could live with. They contacted us after that information came out and asked for some additional information, which we once again promptly provided to them. And they're, from my understanding, in the process of determining that load limit along with their engineers, using that information to try to put a load limit on the bridge that is manageable, but also prolongs the life of that bridge to the greatest extent possible. So I think that there's probably a maximum, and then there's what we can live with, and then there's where we're at right now, and they're trying to figure out where in the middle they need to be.
I think as the engineers recommended that, the speed that those heavier loads go across that bridge cause more damage. And so I think we need to work to kind of just tighten that up a little bit, to be
Yeah, and
a little bit stricter.
And I think they're looking at all the different things to make sure that that bridge lasts as long as it can, including and up to seasonal different limits depending upon the season, whether it's construction season, potentially reducing them, taking it to a level and then measuring it afterwards to see what the deterioration is. They're looking at a lot of different things from what I understand. So.
There's a lot to it, and what they don't, and as Derek said, what they're looking at, they could up the limit, but they want to make sure they don't increase the deterioration at a faster pace before they even get to doing the other piers. So that's all got to be taken into account by them, and they're working on it. And as soon as we hear something.
Nobody's more anxious on those load limits than the township is. We have construction projects that we have planned for the spring. We have materials and supplies that we, depend on that bridge to bring, gas or trash off the island and all kinds of other items. So, we're definitely staying on them about getting that thing adjusted. And it sounds like they're working on it. Hopefully we get something here soon.
We've been, on that one, we've been making weekly to 10-day calls, not letting it slide, so.
I have one question for Derek. The county executive came out this week with a list of projects that they intend to work on, including the bridge over the Thoroughfare Canal on Meridian between Lowry and Ferry. Questions I've been receiving are they going to be able to divert some of the traffic and maintain one lane on that bridge like happened with the Mesa Island Bridge, or is that going to be demolition over a course of many months.
From what I
Any thoughts?
understand, it's a full closure. And I know in utility coordination meetings that I was part of probably a couple of months ago, there are potentially some utility issues there that have to be resolved. I wouldn't expect that project to probably start until late fall of 2022. So I don't think at this point it's going to be a summer construction. It's mostly going to be a late fall and over winter construction project.
That's what he indicated in the material that was released. So that means we're either going to be using West River, East River, or the detour Lowry to Ferry, and then back west reconnect with
Correct,
Meridian.
and they were still trying to finalize that because there were some, when the county looks at detour routes, they look at typical passenger traffic, and then they look at commercial or heavyweight traffic. When they had originally put their detour plan together, they were going to detour the truck traffic across the toll bridge until those weight limits were adjusted when the Wayne County Bridge reopened. So, long story short, I think they're still trying to finalize the detour plans, but they have to take into consideration roads and infrastructure that can handle the weight of trucks, and then roads and infrastructure that's okay to just handle passenger traffic before they finalize something. So I know they were still working on that as of a couple of weeks ago. So
One of the concerns I have is that bridge over the canal on Ferry, which is just north of that crossing, has had, I've had concerns about it. I'm not an engineer, obviously, but the amount of settling and repairs that have been done to the east side in particular seems to indicate that maybe there's some erosion or some certainly questions about what's going on with that end of it.
yeah, and I asked the question about the detour routes and how Ferry played into that, and they're not going to put any traffic across that bridge that it's not load rated to handle.
Right.
You will probably see some construction activity taking place on the ferry or near the ferry bridge in the form of gas line replacement. They're going to be doing gas line work on the Meridian Bridge. They're going to take the opportunity to do some work over on Ferry in anticipation of replacing Ferry within the next couple of years. So they figured get it all done at once. So if you see construction activity by Ferry, that's gas line work. They're coordinating with the gas line work over on Meridian Road.
My concerns were based upon conversations I'd had with Duncan Murdoch about that issue with the Ferry Road Bridge. So that's where that is coming from. And I appreciate the heads up. Thank you.
Welcome.
All right, thank you, Derek. A number of things were taken off my plate with that discussion with Derek, so I just have a few. First, for all the board members, make sure that I would hope by now all of you your commissions have had their voting for chair. If they haven't, they have to have it before our meeting on the 28th. If you're not going to have a meeting, you're going to have a meeting to vote on that. So make sure that your commissions vote for a chair and you pass that on to Margie. And then the only other thing left is Friday, the DDA will be taking a walk down Macomb. One of the projects DDA has is to place art on Macomb in various spots. And we will be taking a walk with the planner to pick out where those spots are. So they're going to try and beautify Macomb a little bit. And that's all I have. The other things were taken care of. Thank you, Derek, for shortening mine. With that, we have public comment, 3 minutes, name and address where you live, any topic. Do we have anybody? Oh, we do.
Kevin Flavin, Park Lane, Roseville, Michigan. Will Wednesday's meeting be televised?
No. Special meeting. We don't televise special meetings.
And why are we having a special meeting?
To handle the issues that are going to be talked about at that meeting.
Are you going to choose a police chief at that meeting?
Hopefully.
And you're going to choose a police chief without videotaping it, without having the public know that, be able to see it on TV? You are. Well, then I'm going to read what and I'm very appreciative of
I haven't,
Chief Porcerelli's.
we haven't talked about, we don't have our people lined up. I haven't talked to Brian about it. I don't know if we could even get it on.
But then you shouldn't have a meeting if you can't put it on TV.
Meeting doesn't have to be on TV, sir.
No, the public would like to know what you're doing.
Come to the meeting.
The public would like to see it on TV, and unfortunately, not everybody can get to the meeting
Can
when
we
you
tape
have
it?
them. I will read this now.
Room's open right here, I think, on Wednesdays, correct?
Yes.
Why wouldn't we be able to do it?
I was never asked.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I'll ask Lori.
I
Can
think it's
we
a pretty
tape it?
important event. I
Yeah.
think it's a really important event. I mean, I don't know why.
If we can do
tell
it,
us.
we'll do it.
Well, I'm going to read this, and it's, I wanted to thank Chief Porcerelli for, having, or insisting, or suggesting that we have an attorney to represent the people that are making complaints. And because of you've decided to do something a little bit different, this might not be totally accurate, but it's close enough. And I want to say it to the public that they know what's going on. Trustees Budney, Bletcher, Nadeau, and O'Connor are attempting to sneak in the vote for the next police chief at the special meeting this Wednesday, March 16th at 6 p.m. No cameras, no video, and the meeting starts at 6 p.m., so most residents likely will not be likely to make it to the meeting because of work. The meeting to choose a police chief must be on all GI media and TV. Video must be archived and available for all residents to see. They also scheduled at the same time, but that may be rescheduled now. They also scheduled a closed meeting on March 16th at the same time to discuss a number of serious complaints against a township agent who made serious public accusations against another township employee, township trustees, commission members, and residents, taxpayers of Groseille. If this employee can, or agent can, publicly make accusations, he certainly should be asked to publicly prove the accusations and publicly apologize to all those involved. No secret meetings, no closed meetings to hide the truth from Groseille residents and taxpayers. This board needs to be transparent, and it's long overdue.
And we gave you plenty of time to read that.
I have a question.
Yes.
That was raised by what was just read.
Yes.
Can we be clear that the independent counsel investigator that we are looking to bring on board is not meant to represent anybody, least of all people making complaints, but that we hired the independent counsel investigator to do an unbiased fact-finding, not to act in favor or against anyone, but to give us a clear picture of what happened.
And if the individual asks for a closed session, we have to give him a closed session. Okay. All right, okay, forget it. Hey,
Jim,
Did you look that up, Brian? I don't think you have to. That's what I read.
anyone else? Bob?
Bob Zelasco, Blauvelt. First of all, I'd like to compliment the board on action item 2, and I believe it was action item number 5. Good decision on both of those. The negotiator, long time overdue, and Mr. Porcerelli so eloquently stated why we needed that person, and I think we all agreed it was a 7 vote. So thank you, Joe, and I'm glad to see that. With regards quickly on the bridge, I watched the DPS meeting. Mr. Thiel is doing an excellent job here trying to juggle things for his summer plan. One of the things we didn't talk about is the cost factor that's going to creep up on us. We're already into March. He's trying to plan on bringing equipment, dust control. A lot of the programs that he's trying to do are dependent upon getting that answer as quick as we can from Wayne County. So if the bridge is in supposedly the condition that the county stated it's in, hopefully we can get that answer soon. Good job. I'd like to hear what you said, Jim, about televising. I think it would be in the best interest of the township, showing professionalism, good communication, and above all, transparency. If you could televise that meeting, I think it would be great.
Of course, when that meeting was scheduled, it was just going to be a closed session on the complaint, which wouldn't be
But it's now going to
television.
be open.
Well, and Friday, when the police commission failed to give us anybody, is when that came up. So
Okay,
we
but-
didn't really think about it.
But your comments tonight,
Yeah,
that you're
well,
going to
I'll
look into
talk
it,
to
I think
Brian
that's,
tomorrow.
I think that's excellent.
Talk to Brian tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Not a problem. Thanks, Bob. Can't see that. Anybody else? Oh, okay. Just a second.
Hi there, Judy Mega, Lafayette, Groseal, Michigan. Good to be back. It's been a while. I wanted to thank the township and the people of Groseal. In November, I was granted permission to use the parking lot here for a used coat drive for Project Homeless Connect. And I think we collected about 380 coats that were distributed. It was heartwarming, it was amazing, and so thank you to everybody. A small community with a big heart. It was very much appreciated. We also were allowed recently to use it again just last weekend for, to use it for a petition drive that we had, which was another fantastic success, and it was much appreciated by the candidates who are trying to get signatures during COVID. It's been tough, so that was very much appreciated as well. On another note, I asked a long time ago about looking into solar, the possibility of solar on township buildings, and I just wondered if at some point in time we can get an update on that. There's an investment in the community, I believe solar panels would be. I had a DTE representative stop by my house in December because my meter was running backwards because of my solar panels. So it would be awesome to see that here. They're much cheaper than they used to be. They work in the wintertime. They're a very effective way to save money. Groseal Democratic Club is meeting again in person. Starts this Monday, the third Monday of the month, at the Colony Club on Meridian at 7 o'clock. If anybody in the community is interested, we'd love to see you there. So thank you all.
Thank you, Judy. Anybody else? Oh, Bill.
Bill Hylant, East River. Essentially, I'm complimentary about the tenor of this meeting tonight, the cooperation and spirit to get things
Bill, is
resolved.
your mic on?
It's green.
Green light? It's just
Is that better?
Yes.
I didn't have it. Thank you. Bill Hylant, East River Road. I'd like to commend the way this meeting went. An openness and spirit to do things, and I think that's worthy. The other point is that we have solar panels on our pole barn. It might be the biggest darn solar panel right here on housing, and it's huge. But our meter runs backwards. I'm suggesting that the township give some serious consideration to that. If the circumstance is right, you can get a good return on your investment. Now, we have some problems. I want to elaborate briefly just so what you need to look for. Most people, if they're having a home, put the thing right on the roof of their house. Well, we put it on our pole barn, And the distance from the pole barn to the house is, I don't know. I'm going to give you a gentleman's guess, 250, 300 feet. So we had to have an underground cable. And there were also some extra concerns because the trusses on the pole barn are 4 feet apart. The normal spread on a roof is 2 feet. And we're right down there by the water with the water's edge. And I was concerned, and we were debating that whether the solar panel would sit down right as it was designed. I was afraid it was going to become a kite if we had a high wind and it would pull things off. We finally resolved that. We were lucky. The guy has integrity. I can get you the name of the company. They're integrity personified, but they hired an engineer to reconfigure the solar panel. I don't know what they spent, but the new one is good for 115 mile an hour. But with all the costs for the stuff that we had to incur, those extra considerations, I'm happy my wife is saving some money. I don't think we're going to live long enough to make this thing.
Next thing, you'll be getting a wind turbine. So,
Oh, yeah, yes. The wind turbines might serve the community. Very sincerely, I don't mean to dominate this, but there are communities that have used wind turbines just for the community itself, and the community buildings, the functions of the community, administration. But there's also others who have decided to go into the electricity business for the whole town. It happens that we have, and I researched this a few years back, an excellent location for wind turbines. I was literally looking at some maps from the EPA, I think it was, and it's crazy, but they have these patterns for wind flow. And a pattern that hits Grosse Seal comes from the east, comes straight west, and the point of it goes right up the middle of the airport. I mean, I'm not pulling your leg. I was amazed at that. But I know we have concern about money for the future. I get worried about that. Something like this might be an alternative way to do things more effectively, and that might be worthy of investigation by someone. I talked a little longer than I expected.
That's okay, Bill. Yep. Yeah, we're letting you go today.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Mills. Good. Good evening.
Yeah, I just want to kind of echo, I'm sorry, Mark Mills, West River Road, Grosse Seal. I want to echo what Bill said a minute ago. Very, very well organized, planned, professional meeting. Not nearly as entertaining, but very professional. I appreciate that. Thank you. And in case I missed this, I just want to kind of direct this to Derek if I can. When they're doing more repair, and when in 2023 they're going to start doing whatever they're going to do, and when they actually start doing the work on the piers, one at a time, whatever they're going to do, is there a plan to shut the entire bridge down again, or are they going to do one-lane traffic? And if I missed that, I apologize.
You didn't, and as you're talking about the Parkway Bridge.
Parkway Bridge, I apologize. Yes.
All the talk has been no big shutdowns. There might be a shutdown. It probably, if it is shut down, it's going to have to be the whole bridge because the bridge is so narrow. If they have equipment in one lane,
Okay.
it's going to protrude into the other lane. But it'd be, right now, the plan would be, if any shutdowns, like the 9 to 3 on a specific day, no long-term shutdowns.
Oh, nothing like what they've had in past where they
No,
have
no
the traffic
months,
signals
no,
up,
no
like one
months
lane
or
going one
anything
way.
like
Okay.
that.
All right. Thank you. That was it. Thank you.
Brian, you had a couple.
Yes. First off, I just want to comment on Derek brought up the household hazardous waste collection, and Wayne County has scheduled one for Saturday, April 2nd at the Westland Shopping Center from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. So I just saw that this weekend.
No, if we have the flyer up on our website.
I will put it up tomorrow morning. Yep.
Okay.
So I have 2 public comments that I received. Let me just make sure I didn't get another one while I was sitting here. So the first one is from Tim Anderson. This is regarding the police chief hire. This is addressed to the 4 board members 8800 Macomb. This is addressed to the 4 board members that have colluded along with the township lawyer to hijack the appointment of the police chief. You have shown utter disregard for the will of the citizens of Grosse Seal. You have thumbed your nose at all of those voters that helped put you in office. You you have all committed political suicide. You have seriously miscalculated the backlash that you will receive if you continue on this path. I do not know Mr. Pellin, nor have I ever met him, but I have watched all of the meetings of both the Police Commission and the Board of Trustees regarding this matter, and Lieutenant Pellin is obviously the most deserving candidate. Listening to the reasons by the 4 dissenting members to the appointment of Lieutenant Pellin to police chief, they were laughable. To Mr. Budney especially, who seems to assert that there are things we, the people, have no idea about, if you've got something, as the saying goes, put up or shut up. And from a John Mamet, from 22431 Meridian, he has 2 questions. Not long after the Free Bridge opened back up, we started having a procession of fairly large dump trucks going by the house. It stopped by the Christmas holiday, then started up again early February. It was preceded on most nice days since. The number of trips varies quite a bit, but has been up to 20 round trips per day, less since the Jefferson Road work in Trenton. The trucks are driving between the BASF property on North Meridian and the BASF property in Wyandotte. Not sure which way they are hauling stuff. Can you tell me what they are doing and how long it will continue? We had a year and a half of truck traffic with the bridge closed. We need a break. Our old house sometimes shakes when they go by. And then secondly, I saw the 2022 Wayne County Road work projects, and Meridian Road wasn't on it. They made noise last year that it would be. Any possibility that it could be added? If not, any hope for 2023? There isn't much left of it at this point. And that's all I have.
Did that gentleman have his telephone number?
No,
Obviously, I'm
but
not
I do have his
asking
email
for it now,
address,
but
so.
if we can look it up, I'll get back to him. All right. Anyone else? That's
The motion to adjourn?
Second. Oh, sorry. Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? None again. We are adjourned. Thank you, guys. Did she?